Assalamu alaikum and hi everyone. With a hope and prayer about your well-being, we are starting the program today. Dear viewers, you will agree with me that sadness and grief are very normal human emotions. We all feel that way from time to time, but that feeling goes away within few days. Uh, MDD or major depressive disorder is something else. And this is diagnosable condition classified as a mood disorder, and it can bring long lasting impact if it is not treated well, and if it is left untreated it can go to a serious complications as serious as loss of life. Having said that, I'm going to give you the good news, and the good news is that fortunately we all have people around us who understand this type of condition well. They are expert to diagnose, treat, and counsel us on this type of condition. Fortunately, we have a person around us today on live platform who is an expert, who is working as director and therapist in The Gap, and she has joined us live from United Kingdom, and she's going to speak upon the subject. Let us go and welcome Jess on our platform. How are you, Jess?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
I'm fine. I'm all good. How is the life going on at your part of the planet? How is your family and business? And tell us something about your personal business life to the viewers as well.
Okay, so I'm the director of the Gap Bedfordshire, which is a therapy service. I work with children and adults who need some assistance with the impact of trauma. So all of my clients have had major traumatic experience, and the Gap provides much needed therapy to that group of clients and their families. Since March, I've had to close because of COVID. We haven't been able to work or see anyone face to face, and the impact of that has been huge. Nobody was expecting it, and it happened so quickly that I didn't have a chance to prepare anyone for an ending or a break. And so it's been really tricky. We're now starting to have our lockdown lifted, so we can start getting back to some kind of normal or this new normal. I'm not sure how we'd actually describe that, but I've kept okay. I've been when this is over. So
Hmm. Jess, you have said that majorly you treat or you interact with the patients who are coming to you in a post-traumatic condition. So
yeah.
before I go into this title of the program, which says that what to do when I'm declared as COVID positive, before I jump into the topic, you tell us that if trauma is, if I have encountered any trauma in my life, why it happened to me and it has not happened to Jess, number one. And if I am a victim of that thing, so is this the victimization in actual, or is this something to do with the opportunity or coming back into the life more powerfully? How do you see it?
I think, we all have, when I work with trauma, trauma is defined as an experience that overwhelms us. So I think a lot of time people think that traumatic experience is a physical attack, or something really 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 bad has happened. Something criminal has happened, or um, so it's major. Somebody has died, or something like that. And actually, traumatic experience is anything that overwhelms us. What can so people people can go through a traumatic experience. It does not mean that you're going to be traumatized. But, how people describe, and I think that's the first thing, is to think about, what do you consider to be a traumatic experience? What would be trauma in your life? What does that mean to you? Because it might mean something different to somebody else.
And this is very delicate difference between the definition of how we are going to see the trauma in real sense. For example, if it is overwhelming for us, as you have said, it is not only confined to the physical trauma, and it can go into the emotions as well. And this
Yeah,
makes me lead to the question of our chosen title today. If I have done all the precautions in this COVID thing, and since March onward, and still if a patient gets COVID positive, don't you think that it may arise in his emotions that am I the victim? Why am the victim? And if that kind of patient comes to Jess, how Jess is going to tell him or her to coop up this phenomenon and get back to the normal life?
yeah. I think the first thing is acceptance. And it's about accepting that sometimes things happen that are completely beyond our control. You know, why does that happen to that person over there? Why does somebody get COVID? Why does somebody get cancer? Why does somebody have really destructive relationships? Why do when they've been a really good person, a really nice person? And we can have that why question hanging over us in any kind of avenue of life. And I think actually that first mindset that you're talking about, why has this happened to me, without
Yeah.
accepting it, that is that's potentially a block in being able to move forward, or being able to recover from the current situation that you're in, because it's almost the first part that you can get stuck in, of
Hmm.
why did it happen to me, rather than actually finding a way forward. And sometimes I think we don't know the answer to that. We don't know why did it happen to this person? Why didn't it happen to that person?
If we don't know the answer to this why, here comes exactly the problem which I am mentioning and which I want you to answer. If we don't know the exact answer to that why, what do you expect from us to do at that point of time?
Sometimes there just isn't an answer, and it's and
Just when who is with us?
sorry, can you
Yeah, I can hear you. You
hear
go
me?
ahead.
Yeah. So sometimes it's sitting with and acknowledging the feelings of knowing that you might not get that answer, that it's not explainable, it's not something that there is an answer to. I think that acknowledging those feelings of how does it feel that you can't answer that is the first piece of work that needs to be done to try and unstick from that situation. Sometimes life really isn't fair.
Life isn't fair at times. So, okay, I buy it. I take it as positive comment. Now, how you take the patients out of that phenomena? Is there any specific technique which you follow, or you guide the patient to do specific things, or two or three things which our viewer can take help from your answer?
I think the first thing that I would do, if you're starting to feel stuck in that kind of negative place, the first thing I would be suggesting is to start looking for the things for which you feel grateful. What are the things that are good? What are the things that you do feel positive about? What are the things that um, that you can appreciate? And when you start to look for those things, it starts to build up, and then you can find more things. When you start to look for negative things, you find all of the negative things. So I think sometimes just having that moment to sit and just think, this is a really bad situation. I didn't ask for this and I don't want this, but you know, I am alive. I'm breathing. I have my home, I have my family, I have, whatever it is, just to try and not put all of the attention and all of the focus on the really bad thing that's happening. I think that, to me, is a really good starting point, because when you start to unpack and when you start to uncover all of the big bad feelings, it's good to have like a platform to fall back on, of something that's positive, rather than for everything to feel so bad. That I think is a that can really snowball into the kind of depression that you mentioned right at the beginning.
I mean, it will at least make the patient fall at the neutral ground instead of having all the negative extremes. With this kind of gratitude feeling, one can land at the neutral ground from where he can build on positive extreme. Yeah, you have beautifully answered it. For example, let me make another situation for you to answer. If, as a patient, COVID positive patient, I'm all kinds of motivated person if I'm to get back to the normal life. But when the first news comes in, as a family, since I live in an ecosystem and the people around us know that I'm COVID positive, and you'll agree with me that every surrounding carries some of the demotivators, some of the souls which can give you the impact, which can negatively impact you. How to get them away, or how to secure yourself from those negative demotivators in case you want to excel progressively?
Ignore them. I think is the just don't listen to them. And again, it's
It,
kind of
it,
it's
yeah, it's
knowing
not that much
it's
simple.
knowing that. Pardon?
it's it's not that much simple. For example, if my life partner is that demotivator, or
Mm.
if your husband is that demotivator, or kids in that, I mean, not you, but if a person has that immediate family member that way, we cannot ignore them simply. It's not that much simple. You tell us, on based upon your experience, experience, how you let the patient scoop up with that situation.
I think I think sometimes we can be around people who it's like if it was a game of tennis, they hit these balls over to you. I don't like that. That's not good. This is awful. This is rubbish. You're this. You're that. And sometimes you just have to let the ball go. Sometimes we can become conditioned, and we go and
I'm
we
going
pick
to
up.
lose a match.
Put 'em.
If I'm going to let the ball go, I'll lose the match.
Well, but this is it. It's like if they're just going to keep throwing hitting the ball, and it's like you're going and you're picking them up and you're carrying them, and then your bag that you've got a bag on your back, and you put all of these balls in, and the bag's getting bigger and bigger and heavier, and it just is really uncomfortable. And sometimes it's about having a look and going, well, what are all of these balls about? What do they mean? Who gave them to me? Why did I pick them up? So sometimes, we can be around somebody who has, who can be quite a negative energy, but that doesn't mean that we have to take on board. We can still accept that that's just the way that they are, but we don't have to really take that on board. And again, I think it's having that platform of positivity that can really help to not want to carry the words and the thoughts and the beliefs of somebody else if they're not a match to what we are thinking and to what we are feeling. I have one of my children is the most negative person I've ever met. And it's really hard sometimes because it's like,
Keep your fingers crossed if he is not listening you.
yeah, oh no, he knows. I tell him he does have a very negative mindset, and that's quite it's quite unusual because obviously he's been around me, and I'm like usually a really happy, really positive person, but it's just him. It's just the way he is, and he can if you could be in a situation and feeling really good about it, and he can come and just destroy that in seconds with his this really negative outlook that he has. It can be really, really difficult, but I've learned with him, I can accept him and I love him, and I can see the good things that about him, but I don't need to take on board all of that negativity that he likes to kind of give out and live with.
Just let me share one feeling which I have for you. You have a beautiful style of keeping the things simple for others, where you have told us that ignore the demotivators very simply, and I believe that it is greatness on your part, but it doesn't happen that much simply. And but when you have shared that you have that feeling about your kid and you take yourself as positive as compared to him, don't you think that it is that kind of I know everything, I'm better than the other people? Don't you feel that this the kind of feeling comes an expert in the field who is working as a therapist, and even for the person who is as close as her son? I mean, I'm father of my kids as well, but I don't imagine my kids telling them that you are negatively induced person. So how do you take it when it comes to your customers or the clients around you? Number one, and number two, you have an example which you share us where you take any patient who was very negatively thinking about himself, and with your counseling, with your efforts, you have converted that victim mind into victor mind in your professional life?
Yeah, I think with you know, and I'm not saying that, you know, my mindset is the right one. I think this is about what works for the individual. We are all different. We all have a different story. We all come from a different place. And it's kind of, it's not to say, well, you're right and you're wrong. It's just that acceptance of you think one way and I think another way, and that's okay. But all I can control is the way that I think, and so I will hold that. And this is the thing with you know, when I meet with people, is that I can't just change the way that they think. um and when people come to see me, it's usually they want change, they want something to change,
When people
very
come,
difficult.
yeah,
So
okay.
it seems very difficult, and sometimes people feel like it's going to be impossible. It's going to be impossible for things to ever get better, or things to ever be different for me. You know, sometimes life just works out like that. And I would never do somebody the disservice to say, well, your thinking is wrong, in that, you know, you shouldn't, you know, just cheer up, just be. Mental health does not work like that. And I think sometimes just in being with somebody and in holding that space for them, um, you know, they begin to work out if they're if and
Okay.
they begin to realize that that's, you know, that is the thing that's holding them back, and that's the bit that they choose to work on for themselves. And often with trauma, when we process trauma, we're literally taking it from one area of the brain and putting it in another area of the brain, and that can be a really life-changing experience in itself, when that event or that incident doesn't have the power to you know, to affect everything around you, which it can, you know, traumatic experience can, it's life changing, can be life
Just
changing.
you have another beauty in your personality, that you shy away from the actual question very easily, and you let the people consider that you have answered it, because I had questioned you to share us a specific example where you had encountered a patient, name of the patient, age of the persona of the patient, and you let him come out of the victim mind into the victim mind. You can answer this question later, but let me go to another question for you. We have talked about generic things. We have talked about informal chat so far. Let us go into theory a bit and let my viewers understand. We are talking about 163 million people in the world who annually go into that depression thing. So this number is huge. We are talking about 163 million. So if that number is huge, there would be the patients who themselves want to come out of that negative feeling of depression after going to positive COVID declaration. If that patient comes to you who thinks that he should come out of that negative thing but don't know how to do that, you being the expert, what is the process of going to come out of that negative emotion? Is there a process stepwise, which these are the steps which I have to undergo in order to come out of that negative phase?
I think it depends. It depends how they got there. All the time, it depends how they got there. Some people are born with, the epigenetics um, that give them that kind of mindset. Sometimes it's the upbringing. Sometimes it's one specific incident. It very much depends on how did you get there. How did you get there? And at what point, at what point did you become overwhelmed? There's a lot of things. There's a lot of things to look at. I think the first thing, and one of the things that I do all the time, is I ask for my client to look in at their self. So what makes you you? What are the things that you like about you? What are the things that you can do? And actually, a lot of people, when they when there's been mental health issues, when there's been traumatic experience around them, etc., they kind of forget who they are. And I've seen that a lot of times that, I'll say, tell me something you're good at. And the client goes, nothing. I'm not good at anything. And that's really sad. That is really, really sad, because we all have skills and we all have talents. And sometimes life can become so overwhelming that we just forget, what are the things that, that we can do. So I work a lot with the I ams and the I can in order to build up that sense of self. And again, I think that helps in the journey of where you're going, because who is the one that is going to get there? Who is the one when when this is processed, and when you're when you're moving on and continuing with the journey through life? Who are you going to be? Who do you want to be? Who is the person that you want to be? What are the things that you do like about yourself? And and I think sometimes we can forget that, and we can forget to look at that, and we take on board a lot of the time what other people think about us and what other people say about us, rather than what we can really truly believe about ourselves.
Hmm,
I
hmm,
think that's
hmm.
a really good starting point as well, to know who you are, to know those good things about you.
So, I mean, positive thinking and positive remarks can create a positive impression. That is very impressive. Good on your part. We are talking about the world today, where we have seen 132,000 new cases of COVID today, 13th of July. We are talking about the confirmed cases, which are as larger as 12.6 million by today. This is the report of WHO, and we are talking about 565,000 deaths so far. We are living in a world where Jess country, UK, has experienced 288,000 confirmed cases, and Pakistan is not far behind with 248,000 confirmed cases. When we are living in the world with that much adversity faced by the people, do you see the trend of people with the psychotherapy need and traumatic treatment need of therapy coming to you in the larger number as before COVID, or do you see the people making self-medication thing at their homes themselves?
I think what I'm seeing is that what's really increased, and what I've noticed in the referrals that I've been getting, so my new clients that are coming to me, people aren't coming with a fear of COVID. It's like people are anxious. They're anxious about what's going to, what's going to be, how the life has changed, how their work has changed, how their thinking has changed. And I think, again, that it's that negative mindset, because what you go for, what you said about was the confirmed cases and how many deaths there are, how many people have recovered, how many people survived COVID. That's not the news. We don't talk about that as the news. We go straight in for that negative. This is how many people. It's fear, fear, fear. You know, and actually, if we were talking about how many people have recovered, how many people have survived, how many, how many key workers have survived, how many people have, have been helping in the hospitals. What are the good? What are the, what have people been doing that have helped others around? But we're not conditioned to look for
Yeah.
the good things. We're conditioned to look at the negative things, and that's really scary. So I think there seems to be a divide that I'm seeing, that there's some people who are really excited to go back to work. They're really excited to, go back to school. People, children who want to go and see their friends, and, who are kind of looking forward to getting back to normality. People who want to go on a plane and go on a holiday. And there's other people who just don't even want to leave the house yet because they're absolutely terrified. And that's what the media does. The media has scared us into this state of, this really bad thing. We see, COVID as this really bad thing that's going to kill us, but it's not going to kill everyone. There's a lot of people who survived. I don't know the figure. I haven't seen it. I don't really look at the news anyway, but that's the figure that I would want to pay attention to. Who survived?
So you'll agree with me that there are two types of opinions right away, and all the time this kind of two extremes or poles are existing around us. One is the media thing, which is always giving the negative impressions, and the other one is the mindset you have shared us, the positive impact. If anybody is unable to reach out to the people just like you, who always speak about who are you, how to find out your inner self, converting your cants to can and all that stuff. If a person cannot reach people like you, what would be the action point for that person to do himself? I mean, if I'm watching this program and I cannot reach out to you, what do you suppose me to do right now?
I think you can still start doing those things on your own. So you can start with your list of everything that you're good at, everything, when when we look at what we can do, I'm talking about walking, talking, singing, dancing, running, hopping, jumping, all of these things that when we were born, we weren't able to do. We didn't have the ability to do these things. We had to learn how to do these things. And things like that are as
Just
important.
let me interrupt you here. For example, if I'm a desperate person right now, I'm COVID positive, declared COVID positive. I had been laid off from the organization for which I was working, and now you are telling me that I'm going to make the list for myself, that I can walk, I can sing, and I can dance. You tell me that how is it going to make me impact positively in terms of my financial impact? How is it going to give me the salary which I was drawing from my last organization, if I'm going to make the list out of this normal things as singing or walking or breathing?
It's about how you see yourself, and it's about how you feel about yourself. And again, it's that positive kind of platform that that we all kind of need to have, so that when if you were COVID positive, well, that doesn't change who you are as a person. That's just something. That's just the thing. That's you. You've got COVID, but you can fight that, because look at all of the things that you can do. You're amazing. You're an amazing person. You've got all of these things that you can do, and so use that to help with your mindset, while you fight for your survival of this virus.
Just did you encounter any person? Let me a bit critic in the last moments of our in this live session. Did you encounter any patient or a person client as a client who was negative enough to not understand all of your suggestions, and he still thinks that he has nothing to appreciate in his life? What to do in that case?
Usually there's something that is there. Usually, I mean, I wouldn't I don't think I'd really encounter somebody who couldn't move forward. I don't think I've ever met with anyone who really couldn't move forward. Um, but this is the thing, it's that they want to move forward. They have a desire to move forward, which is why they've come to see me in the first place. So, um, again, sometimes it's about that awareness. It's about the awareness that they're feeling
So if
stuck.
If a person comes to you, it means that he is willing and he has desire to progress himself. Then
Yeah.
why the suicide takes place? Suicide takes place in that case where the person is unwilling to progress forward, and he will not going to come to you and the people like you. So if that person is somehow going to get hooked up with you, what would be your suggestion to him in order to get away from that feeling of suicide and come back to the life? And this is the last question before we conclude.
Um, I think with, people who are feeling suicidal,
Yeah.
I don't know what the statistics are like um, in Pakistan, but I know in the UK, um, usually people who do actually commit suicide haven't ever told anyone. They don't tell anyone that that's what they're going to do, and that this is why they nobody intervenes because nobody knows. And so you're more likely. So if I was to meet somebody who was saying that actually that was how they felt, I know they're in a good place because they're telling me. Then the reason they're telling me is because they don't really want to do that. Sometimes they don't want their life to end, they just want the feeling to end, but they don't know how the feeling can end. And it's about finding that hope. And I think that's that it's um having hope is is quite a big thing. And I think we can lose hope. And I think that's the thing that we've seen recently is people kind of losing hope. Um, but I think with somebody who was feeling really suicidal, if they're reaching out, I think that they are in a really good place and they're in the best place for that. Somebody who's feeling suicidal and isn't reaching out, I mean, I'd, if somebody was watching this
Finding.
and felt like that, I would say, just tell someone,
I
tell
mean,
someone.
yeah, okay. I mean, finding hope and finding yourself are the best things to find out when you are around the people like Jess are. Jess, tell us something about how do you take life? What is the definition of life in your viewpoint? And how do you take this COVID thing in your personal thoughts?
With Sorry, say that again.
How do you think what life is? What is the philosophy of life in your definition? And how do you take this COVID and pandemic in your viewpoint?
How do I have um I have avoided everything to do with COVID. I haven't um I haven't looked up statistics. I haven't read all the press reports. I haven't read any newspapers. I've just tried to keep myself healthy. I've tried to keep my thoughts high and my positive thoughts high. I've been thinking about ways that I'm going to move forward. I'm not worrying that I'm going to get it. I'm not worrying that I'm going to die or anything like that. I've just tried to keep things moving forward. Um, and I think, and that's kind of how I live my life a lot of the time, is that I'm always like, I have a very busy brain, and I'm always kind of on to the next thing. And and I like to think that I'm here. I'd like to make a difference. I'd like to to make a kind of difference to the world and make a difference to other people's lives. And that's kind of what I do. That's what I did when I set the gap up. I mean, I didn't come um, from a very happy place. I was a very, very depressed teenager. I was very depressed in my 20s, and there was a lot of things that I had to deal with. And when I did that, this is where I decided that I wanted to make a difference for others. And I think sometimes it's about just finding out. And I think with people, it's finding out, why are you here? What are you, you know, what difference would you like to make to the world? What are the things that really light you up? What are the things that make you feel happy? What is it that, what are the things that you do that makes you feel happy, that gives you a good feeling? And if you know what those things are, do more of them. And and I think that's what life's about, really, is kind of having that having that balance, having the work and play balance, and but just doing things that make you feel alive and that make you feel like, you know, the world's a good place, because the world really is a good place. You know, we just don't talk about that enough.
What words would be the best words to close the program, where we have found out that word is really the good place to have? And to me, this a soul which was depressed teenager at one time, she somehow found the purpose of her life, and then working upon that purpose, because she believed that life without purpose is just like a ship without a rudder. And she found out that she is going to help people around herself, and she created The Gap, where she's working as director and the therapist, and she's living her life with one motto, and that is to create the positive difference in people's life around her. Jess, thank you very much for these kind words and sharing your wisdom with us. It was marvelous. It is always marvelous to interact with you. One thing to share, that you are a positive soul, and it gives always the positive energy to the people who interact with you from time to time. I look forward for more talks like this one, and I look forward for you to take care of yourself and the people around you. Last minute wisdom sharing at your end. Anything which you want to share with the audience around the world? You are being listened, not only in Pakistan but abroad as well. Over to you for the last minute advice.
I would just, my last advice would be just to find something good. Look around you, find something good, find something that feels good, that looks, you know, that looks good, that's happy, something that gives you that feeling, and then allow it to build. Go and find more of it, do more of it, do something that makes you feel happy. That's that's what I would say. That's what I'm going to go and do myself this afternoon. So
Finding your purpose first, and then create difference in people's life, and then keep building on it. Thank you very much, Jess, with your talk. Inshallah, we are going to see you again. Take care. Bye bye.
thank you. Bye.